A private house or cottage is not only a place for recreation and living, but also a plot where there are various utility rooms and a farm. In addition, on any site, there are not only gardens but also vegetable gardens, which means that it is necessary to provide a storage room for agricultural equipment and finished products. Now material, you can learn about the types of outbuildings and why they are needed. In addition, we will determine the optimal location of the structure, its appearance and shape. What are outbuildings in a private yard for? It is not difficult to guess that any household building should perform one function: to help in various household chores. For example, greenhouses are needed for growing plants. A shed or cellar is needed for storing food. With the help of a greenhouse, plants can be planted earlier and harvested longer. A shed will be useful for storing special clothes and tools, versatiles and other equipment, and the cellar will allow you to save the collected products until the next season. If the owner of the plot plans to breed animals, then he will need a chicken coop or a summer kitchen, sheds, and a cellar. The birds will spend the night in the chicken coop. The summer kitchen will be useful for their processing. The barn can store feed and hay, straw and sawdust, as well as inventory and work clothes. A compost pit is necessary for the disposal of straw and sawdust. After the work on site, a summer shower may be useful because it will get rid of the smell peculiar to the chicken coop, and the cellar will be needed so that the bird can be cooked, not immediately, but to extend its shelf life by salting or smoking the carcass. What are the outbuildings? If we talk about the types of outbuildings, then everything depends on the purpose and configuration of the building. For example, a small one-story building with several rooms can be used as a guest house or a summer kitchen, workshop or pantry. Utility rooms can be located separately from each other or combined under one roof, creating a single economic unit. In this regard, most buildings have several functional tasks. However, there are also buildings whose internal configuration implies only one use. For example, a summer shower and toilet, an aviary and a chicken coop. Of course, you can store firewood or a workbench in a chicken coop, but it is unlikely that such a solution will be convenient. In this regard, before proceeding to the construction of an economic building, it is important to determine its functional tasks, because each building on the site must fully correspond to its purpose. The impact of farm buildings on the house and plot. As you know, any structure affects not only the site and its visual perception, but also a private house. In this regard, it is important that the outbuilding is not only useful and functional, but stylish and attractive. The style of the outbuildings should coincide with the style of a private house, complementing it with its beautiful design. If this is not possible, then you need to choose the right place to build. The purpose of the building affects not only its appearance, but also the project that will be used for its construction. It is also important to think over the interior layout of the room, because this is the only way to create a functional and attractive building. In addition, you need to think through the logistics of the site in advance, because the utility block and tools should be as close as possible to the place of work. Choice of interior layout and shapes. Having determined the functional tasks of the outbuildings, it is necessary to calculate its shape and layout. For example, a shed designed for storing agricultural tools should be equipped so that there is a place to store gardening supplies. There should also be enough space for free movement, dragging large objects inside. If you plan to build a chicken coop, it is important to calculate the size of the building so that there is enough space for the bird, its life and nutrition, sleep and rest. When building a shed that serves as a workshop, It is important that it is comfortable to work at a workbench. Here, you need to provide shelves for storing parts and tools. If your work with wood is to be carried out in the workshop, then the width of the shed should be greater than the length of the workpiece, and the length of the building is greater than its width. Having determined the configuration of the building and the minimum internal dimensions, you can proceed to choosing the shape, size, and style of the economic building. In addition, many homeowners prefer to build a single unit that combines several functions, for example, a shower is combined with a toilet, and a summer kitchen and a garage with a workshop and a recreation room. The choice of combination depends on the preferences of the owner of the plot and what he needs more. As for ideas and projects, they can be found on the internet. You can also involve an architect or see photos of ready-made solutions presented in our material. Canopies. Canopies increase the outdoor living space, allowing you to get almost one more room, giving you the freedom to enjoy the outside environment by creating a pleasant area of shade. The canopy is a fixed work, a structure resting on pillars covered by a rigid structure, open at least on two sides, and that can be anchored to the walls in a fixed manner. At the urban level, they are considered to be relevant and therefore usually require structural design and testing according to their applicable technical building codes. Adaptable elements with multiple uses, the canopies are the perfect structural and functional complements with which to complete and contribute to the outdoor furnishings of private structures. Models of canopies and shelters for outdoor living. To make the most of terraces and balconies in both summer and winter, many people use the construction of outdoor canopies to better enjoy their outdoor space. There are many models available, from the most classic products to those with a modern design. Canopies with built-in lights allow you to spend time on your balcony on terrace in the evenings thanks to an integrated lighting system. This type of solution can be fixed or mobile. In the case of mobile canopies, we speak of motorized sunroof produced for the most part all in metal. Finally, we must bear in mind the canopy with photovoltaic panels or photovoltaic canopy, a single-pitch structure in aluminium or laminated wood which plays the role of canopy or roofing. The canopy, which can be used for various purposes, is covered with photovoltaic panels for the production of electricity. Wood, iron, glass. Canopies suitable for all exteriors. Outdoor canopies can be made of various materials such as glass, wood, metal, fabric, and plastic. Among the various types, the most common are the wood canopies. Wooden canopies are structures anchored to the house that cover part of the external ground. They can also be used as roofing for verandas or parking spaces, allowing you to get a space of shade useful during the summer. The glass canopies also offer effective protection against wind and weather, allowing functional and aesthetically pleasing design of entrance areas and living spaces. Iron is another material that goes very well with glass. Iron canopies and iron and glass canopies give you the opportunity to take advantage of a covered or semi-covered space with adaptable design structures, from traditional solutions to modern models. Owners of private houses are becoming more and more aware every day that in order to create comfortable living conditions, it is important to pay attention not only to the main building, but also to the infield, its design. They do not count on the help of landscape designers and specialists trying to create a creative fairy tale garden on their own, which is impossible to imagine without flowers. If you plan to build flower beds with your own hands in the courtyard of a private house, it is important to choose the right design of flower beds, taking into account their appearance and shape, location and materials that will be used. How to make a beautiful flower bed? Find out about it with us. Choosing the location of the flower bed in the yard of the house. Before setting up a flower garden in front of the house or a flower bed in the garden, it is important to responsibly approach the choice of the place where the conceived flower arrangement will be located. When choosing the location of a garden masterpiece, you need to consider the following factors. Viewpoint, the place from which the household will most often see their possessions, and the flower bed itself. Microclimate on the site. At the same time, it is necessary to take into account not only the fertility of the soil, its acidity and humidity, but also the amount of sunlight entering the infield. This will allow you to determine the type of flower garden, its shape, and the plants that will be used for the design of the flower bed. The presence of a background for the composition, its material, texture and color. Based on the characteristics of the background, the color palette of plants is determined. The type and height of the fence is selected. It is worth noting that the key task of the flower bed is to give people pleasant emotions, attracting with its beauty, which means that when choosing the location of the flower garden, it is best to start from the viewpoint. To do this, it is important to understand where households are most often by placing a flower bed near these places. If the owner of the plot spends most of his time in the house, then the flower bed should be under the window. If on the terrace or in the gazebo, then the flower garden should be located at the entrance to the building, and so on. The best place for a flower bed on the plot. Ideally, a place for a flower bed is left at the construction stage of a private house. Unfortunately, not everyone thinks about this in advance, which means that flower beds need to be included in the formed landscape design, where there is already a residential building and other buildings, garden paths and trees. However, it is almost always possible to find a free flower bed while choosing a good location of the flower garden. The following points should be taken into account. Flowers and ornamental plants do not like wind and drafts, which means that it is better to place them in a place where the impact of wind will be minimal. Almost all flowers are sun-loving, which means they need to be placed on the south side of the plot. At the same time, there are plants that do not tolerate prolonged insolation, and it is better to place them on the western or eastern side of a private house. The flower beds should not be placed in the lowlands of the site, as they do not tolerate stagnation of moisture in the ground. Excess moisture is dangerous for the root system. Therefore, the flower bed cannot be placed in a place where rainwater flows, at the roof of a private house or other buildings. Based on everything that was said earlier, we can conclude that the flower bed is best placed in the front garden in front of the house, because the flowers will be noticed not only by the household, but also by their guests. Designers recommend placing a flower bed at the porch of the house. An unusual and stylish solution will be to create a carpet composition where flowers create words and phrases. Hello, have a nice day, or welcome. However, experienced gardeners can make such a composition for a start. It is better to limit yourself to the simpler options represented in the photo. If the plot is dominated by tiles and concrete, then containers that lift flowers above ground level can be used to arrange flower beds. Flower bed design: choosing the type and shape. Having determined the place for the flower bed, it's time to decide on its type and shape, the materials used for arranging the flower garden. In general, experts distinguish two types of flower beds. Regular flower beds with low plants blooming at the same time. Strict and clear lines of the floral pattern are observed here, which must be ensured with careful and constant care. Irregular flower beds. Flower beds filled with long blooming plants of the same variety of flowers with offset flowering periods, so that the flower bed will bloom and delight throughout the season. Not so long ago, the garden was perceived extremely negatively because it served as a great help for the family budget. In addition, a lot of effort and time was required to care for the garden, which frightened most of the homeowners. In the modern concept, a garden is a hobby. Growing your own vegetables is difficult and responsible, unequally and unprofitable from an economic point of view. At the same time, this is fairly interesting and exciting activity that allows not only to receive natural fruits, but also to decorate the site. How to create a decorative garden with your own hands? About this in our material. Differences between the classic and decorative garden. The garden is a small area on the territory of the personal plot, intended for growing vegetables. Also, here can be fruit trees and berry shrubs located near the house. A classic garden is a bed formed in rows covered with a film stretched on a metal or plastic frame. Greenhouse. As for the decorative garden, containers and other containers used for it, which can be located anywhere, near the terrace or patio, arbors, or at the porch of the house. For that purpose, they use flowers and potted garden pots. An equally attractive option is rockery, which, in addition to gravel and stones, may contain plants useful in the household, for example, spicy herbs. Decorative garden. What is it? The concept of decorative usually means a garden with a high level of improvement, garden paths and high beds with slides, capital structures and beds of the original shape. An equally important condition for creating a decorative garden is the presence of colors, annual and perennial, which make up about 10% of all plants that are in the garden. To create a garden of this type, vegetable and other crops are used, designed not to eat them, but for the decor of the site. For example, you can use sunflower and tomatoes, various types of salads, and corn. You can go to a horticultural store. Then there you can find a wide range of plants, which will allow everyone to choose the best option. At the same time, experts recommend not using plants with unedible or poisonous fruits, because this can mislead both adults and children. This type of garden is called decorative. It is not worth placing it on the front house territory, since it belongs to the household zone. It is also impossible to place the garden in the center of the site, because the recreation area and garden paths will divide it into small fragments, which will lead to a visual decrease in the site, and this will negatively affect its perception. The determination of the size of the decorative garden is equally important. The main element is the bed, a strip allocated for planting plants. For proper care of the beds, you need to constantly loosen and dig the ground, plant seedlings, and sow seeds, weed and water plants. Therefore, it is important to make the garden in such a way that it was convenient and comfortable to care for it. Based on this, the gardeners determined the following parameters. The width of the bed is no more than 1 meter. The height of the beds depends on the gardener and his capabilities. For example, it is more convenient for older people to work on raised beds. The thickness of fertile soil is at least 0.2 meters. The minimum width between the beds, track for movement, from 0.4 meters. If high beds are planned, then to create them you need to use strong, environmentally friendly and moisture-resistant materials. Probably no modern plot can be imagined without flower beds and green lawns and other elements that create an amazing and attractive landscape design. At the same time, garden paths serve as an equally important element of the household territory, which not only divide the space into functional zones but also give comfort when moving around the site. For the arrangement of paths, you can use construction and improvised materials, but we will talk about a practical and durable, beautiful coating, natural stone. No coating can compete with stone because only natural material will emphasize the sophistication of landscape design, perfectly combined with green spaces on the site. How to make garden paths out of stone? This will be discussed in our material. Advantages and disadvantages of natural stone. Garden paths made of natural stone not only demonstrate the exquisite taste of the homeowner, but also emphasize the landscape design, becoming part of it. Stone is a universal material that can be used on any site, regardless of its shape and size and style. At the same time, the decorative functions of the stone are not its only advantage, because it is worth noting the following advantages. A wide range, which allows you to choose the material depending on its color and texture, shape and size. Laying a stone path does not require special equipment or special skills, which means that you can do without workers by doing everything with your own hands. Long service life, regardless of environmental factors. The stone is not afraid of moisture and temperature changes, high mechanical load and other methods of exposure. Of course, natural stone has not only the positive aspects described earlier, but also disadvantages. The inability to accurately calculate the material. The stone has an irregular shape and non-standard dimensions, so it is impossible to guess the required amount. You will have to buy more material or disturb the slopes. Heavy weight, which affects the difficulties with loading and transporting natural stone. The high price is another disadvantage that you need to be prepared for, since the costs are fully justified by the lack of repair work and the surface life of the material. Stone track options. Also, to create a garden path with your own hands, you can use pebbles, which is easy and convenient to work with. Due to the small size of the stones, you can create original winding paths, because the material does not require special processing and fitting in size or shape. Of course, such a coating will not withstand a heavy load, but it is quite enough to create a walking path. An alternative solution is a combined path that combines several types of natural stone. For example, granite can be combined with sawn stone, and large flagstone looks good with small pebbles. Also, the stone can be combined with other materials, for example, wood cutting. Every owner of a country house dreams that his plot is as interesting and attractive as possible, original and unusual. Ornament is a miraculous means of decoration that fully fulfills the requests of homeowners. This secret weapon of designers not only helps to make the site more attractive, but also emphasizes the style of landscape design. Ornament is an ideal tool that allows you to radically change the yard and the surrounding environment with minimal financial investment and time. Ornaments and fancy patterns surround us everywhere, especially in the natural environment. The veins of leaves and the texture of wood, ripples on the water and the pattern of branches in the forest. All this accompanies humanity throughout its experience. Since ancient times, people have actively used ornament, decorating utensils and household items with it, the walls of the dwelling, and their own body. How to apply their ornament in the landscape correctly? More on this later. Ornament and its functions. Ornaments and patterns conquer us with their intricacy, attract attention, and create unique drawings. In addition, the ornament performs a number of functions, including manifestation of style. Since ancient times, people have been putting different character and imagery into ornaments and patterns. As a result, smooth and geometric patterns, laconic or pretentious lines and details help to emphasize a particular style. The Greek mandor, the curves of the Art Nouveau irises, and other motifs are recognizable at a glance, and the characteristic details and the degree of their stylization will easily make the site more attractive and refined. Unification of space. An ornament is an alteration of repeating elements, which allows it to be used as a means of uniting functional zones. Using objects of different materials and sizes, you can use the ornament of details, which will allow you to link together the separate buildings, zones. Also, the ornament allows you to bring unity to the color scheme so that the site looks like a single whole, enveloping with its love a sense of coziness and comfort. For example, a one-color ornament accentuates a monotone space. Two-color patterns emphasize the sophistication of an additional shade, and complex multicolor patterns create a community of disparate colors. Correction of forms. Ornaments and patterns dilute the monotony, allow you to organize the landscape competently, hiding its shortcomings. The ornaments on the fence will easily correct its unfriendly appearance, make the fence more refined and attractive. The patterns can also be used to decorate the walls of buildings, which will make them more stylish and original. Decoration and creation of accents. Complex ornamental patterns attract because you want to look at them, examining each element in detail. Ornament is an advantageous accent that can be used where it is important to emphasize one or another element or distract from some defects in hospitable areas. In addition, patterns are often used on monotonous planes, which makes them more interesting. Ornaments and patterns. Where to use? In order for the site to become more attractive and refined, it is important not only to add patterns and ornaments to the landscape, but also to know their scope. It is best to use fancy patterns and shapes in the following areas. Compositions with stone ornaments. Fencing with patterns. It is worth noting that it is possible to create both complex ornamental panels on solid planes and open-work wrought iron garden grills, screens with fancy patterns and drawings. The house, or rather its walls. The facade of the house can be decorated with ornamental panels, paintings or mosaics. Garden paths paved with the creation of an ornament. You can also make unusual and interesting patterns on sites, for example, recreation areas or in front of a garage. Small shapes, furniture, and decor. The ornament can manifest itself in the decoration of gazebos and bridge railings, garden furniture, and screens, Planters and other elements decorating the garden of a country house. Lamps with patterns that create shade in the dark. Textiles, tablecloths and awnings, curtains and awnings, blankets and pillows. Properly trimmed plants, shrubs and trees, as well as trellis cultivation of trees.